Hey, everybody, it's Dean Jackson. Welcome to the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast, live by video from our world headquarters studio in Winter Haven, Florida. And today we have a returning guest, Matthew Coast, episode 145. You may remember from 3 years ago now or so. Matthew's in Austin, Texas, and I'm excited to get the update and hear what Matthew's up to. So welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dean.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be here.
So give everybody the kind of little bit of backstory about what business you're in, how it's all been going, and then we can jump off, see what kind of evil schemes you're looking to hatch today.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm in the women's dating industry. So I help women basically get into committed, lasting relationships with men. I help them find the love of their life. So when we talked last time, it's kind of funny because I think I was still working on the same things that I'm working on now, but it was like everything's kind of changed over the last 3 years. Our business is grown probably 10 times since then. And I actually stopped working on what I was working on then, which at the time was we were trying to get our high ticket program at the time kickstarted, and we were having a bunch of problems with it. And we ended up running into even bigger problems with it. And I actually just scrapped that whole thing for a while and went back to kind of the lower ticket stuff where I was like, how do we get more products, lower ticket products on cold traffic and working and running? And that actually was a great move on my part. And I'm glad that I did it. And so we kind of grew from there. At the time, that's kind of all I was doing. And then I started doing live events, and I started doing coaching again, and we started dialing in the offer better and better.
Yeah.
And right now I'm building a sales team, and that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
I love it. So how does the business work then? If we're on how it's made and kind of describing your before unit, how does it work that you end up getting clients now? What have you evolved to?
Well, a lot of it's cold traffic. That's where they kind of originate from. And we do a lot of kind of educating and helping people kind of learn who I am before they even start engaging with my content now. That has kind of changed before, because before it was like, hey, let's get them into the opt-in machine and get them getting emails, which is something we still do, obviously, because it works. And we found that you can actually do a lot of that stuff before they even get into before they even give you their email address.
So
and so we started.
I was going to ask, are you primarily on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? Where are you where are you getting in front of them?
I'm getting in front of them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we're kind of expanding where we're doing it right now. So we're starting to include TikTok and Twitter and some of those other platforms.
Got it. And are you so ultimately you want somebody, if we say like base camp 1 would be to get them on your email list. Is that kind of the objective? Because then from there, everything can happen. If you back it up, I guess you're looking that you want to pixel them so you could create an Are you focusing on building audience as a pre-step to getting opt-ins?
Right.
And how do you measure that's working?
So what I've found is it's kind of difficult to measure that it's working outside of feedback that we actually get from women, right? So when we started doing that, I take that back. You can actually measure it. The way that you measure it is through retargeting and what the CPAs are from retargeting. So if I start, if I'm building my audience more and I'm focusing more on, pixeling and retargeting these women, and then we start selling them something, one of our lower ticket products, or we start getting them into our opt-in list through our retargeting program. We found that if we do all that first, it actually, the CPA, the cost per purchase or the cost per opt-in, is actually much, much lower than if we're just going off of cold traffic.
So
And
that's an
so
interesting
we've
thing. Do you look at, so one of the things, if I were looking to analyze it, is I'd want to know like how much to get a opt-in. That would be a key metric on the driver. Do you have a sense of your happy number and what you're able to accomplish with that? Going, and the two treatments would
yeah.
be going straight for that, like prioritizing on the cold outreach to go straight to the opt-in versus warming up, audience building, and then to the opt-in. Both of those paths are, you're going to have some cost and delay in building the audience prior to getting the opt-in. So I'm just curious what the delta would be, or what the difference would be between the cost of the opt-ins with either path.
Okay. Yeah. So if we just do cold traffic right now, we test a whole bunch of different kind of lead magnets and figuring all that kind of stuff out. But generally speaking, it's somewhere between 40 cents per opt-in and like $1 per opt-in if we are sending them just straight from cold traffic.
Yeah.
And we're able to get it down to around 23 cents per opt-in if we're retargeting that traffic instead of just sending them straight.
Including the cost
so,
of the retargeting and the initial pixeling?
No, that's really difficult for us to kind of measure because we have so many different places where people are coming in from with traffic, right? And so it's like, okay, well, how do we measure that exactly, right? If somebody comes from, let's say, search traffic, and they hit our website, it's like, okay, well, how do we know that they came from search traffic? So there's a bunch of different elements.
I'd be interested to see if you were doing a specific, like on Facebook, where you got one group where you're warming up, pixeling, building an audience, and then doing the opt-in versus the cold, like an A/B test kind of thing of going to, on Facebook, an audience, your cold audience, and just going straight to the opt-in. So if you're saying that it's 40 cents to $1, you're like, it's so ridiculously, such a ridiculous opportunity, to build. You think about, for $1,000 you get 1,000, and 1,000 opt-ins is, and it seems like, I would imagine it's a pretty bottomless pool to pull from. Are you primarily North America or worldwide, or what's your?
So about 43% of the women that we work with are from the United States, and then the rest is all over the world. So everywhere.
It's universal.
I think right now we're selling to around, like, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 different countries at the moment. And so we're all over the place.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. So I'll throw out a couple of things so we can, I'll throw out a couple of metrics and things that we've been using to maybe set a context, and you can see if we can overlay this on what you're doing there. So one of the key metrics that I would be looking at is, and this is all under the heading of taking a capital investment approach versus an expense-based approach. And I'm not sure I had those words when we spoke 3 years ago, that, mostly when people are doing cold traffic or doing kind of info marketing, the metrics are all indicative of taking what I call an expense-based approach, that we're looking at, you spend, this is the ad spend, and this is the conversions, and we get a, return on ad spend after 30 days or whatever it is. That's kind of the focus that people have. What I look at is uh, taking the full focus on getting the opt-ins as the capital investment, and the asset that you're building is this opt-in list of 1,000 ladies, 1,000 people who've done that, and you've invested as a capital investment $1,000 in that asset. And now what we do is track that asset over the next 100 weeks as taking, because if you look at it, that I imagine that people are buying your products or coming to events or, buying something from you after any number of times. You could have people who go through the process, they opt in and they buy something right away, which is what you're hoping and looking for. But I imagine that there's also people who've been on your list for 2 years and all of a sudden then buy something, right? Do you track this is kind of a metric that I've invented for our own stuff here, is looking at a number similar to what they have in the hotel industry, where they have a revenue per available room is a key metric in hospitality, RevPAR, they call it. So I've been focusing on what I call RevPUP, which is revenue per unconverted prospect. So you invest $1,000, you've got an asset of 1,000 people, you're communicating with them for 100 weeks, 2 years. How much revenue can you generate from that 1,000 people over that length of time, rather than just looking at the 30, 60-day return on ad spend? So how do you measure that? That's I'm curious about. Is that an approach that you sort of acknowledge and focus on, or is that just you put them through the gauntlet series, and if they don't buy, they're in the affiliate list, or we'll just keep sending them and maybe they'll buy something?
Yeah, I'm not quite as sophisticated as that, Dean.
Okay. Well, let's talk it through. So tell me how you focus on it.
I focus mostly on revenue in and revenue out.
Okay.
And so I look at the big numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I say, okay, how much money do we have coming in right now? How much money can we spend on, like what you're talking about, investing different kind of areas of the business so that
Right.
we can kind of grow this traffic. And I just look at it on a weekly basis. Okay, how much are we making this week? And how do we increase those margins? How do we build this? How do we grow this over time? And obviously there are ups and downs and different things, but that's what I've found has been the most valuable for me lately. I know there's a lot of value inside like the details of those numbers and looking down into them and saying, what's going on here and what's going on there. And sometimes I do that as well, depending on the week. But sometimes it's a little bit, don't really have all the software in place to be able to measure, like, if somebody has been kind of engaging with our content for 2 years, how long have they been engaging?
Well,
how long
so
have they been on the list? All that kind of stuff.
Is it high volume transactions? Like, how many buyers would you have in a month, in the month of December, say?
Yeah, so we do probably around 100 to 150 transactions a day.
Okay, wow.
And so
all right, this is like going to be a great thing. So if you take a 10-day period, that's 1,000 purchases, right? So if you just look at two ways to get a big picture of this, is to take the last 1,000, go 10 days back, these 1,000 transactions. How long had they been gestating? So you take the transaction and you take when did they opt in. So some of them will have bought, maybe they just opted in yesterday and bought today. Some of them opted in 30 days ago, 60, 90. It would be a very interesting thing for you to see a sequential, like, sort by ad date to see what that bar looks like. Okay. And then to bookend that with going back to this 10-day period of 2021, the same 10-day period, looking at all the opt-ins for that, the month of December or whatever. How many days does it take you to get 1,000 opt-ins?
One.
Okay, so you're getting 1,000 opt-ins a day. So you look at that. So you go back to one of those days. Go back today to look at everybody from an ad date 1 year ago today. How many of those people bought and when did they buy? And do the same thing back 2 years and see how many. So that'll give you, in very broad strokes, an indicative sense of what your revenue per unconverted prospect is. If we take the class of, December 20th, 2021, how much revenue did they generate in the last 50 weeks? And then go back to 2020 and see how many did the class of this day that year. Now that'll give you a good number. If we were guessing, if you were on The Price is Right and you had to bid on what you suspect that number might be without going over, what do you think the revenue per 1,000 opt-ins 100 weeks ago is?
I have no idea, man.
Do you understand what I'm asking, though, right? Like, would it be?
Yeah, I know.
Do you
what
have?
you're asking.
Is it something? Could you do it while we're here? I mean, do you have access to all the stuff just to be able to look at your? I don't know how integrated all your info systems are, but do you have a way to say, just look at your shopping cart report and see and sort by ad date for your last 1,000 sales, even if you did 100, just to get a sense of it? But what would you guess what is your average ticket?
It's around $34.
Okay. So if you look at the $34, you wonder, and then some of those people go on and buy what's the most expensive thing that they can buy?
We have a $8,000 coaching package.
Okay. So it would be fascinating. And the entry product is a pathway to the 8,000. So very rare that somebody would come in and buy an $8,000 package tomorrow if they just opted in today, right? They've had a taste, they've got this, and then you, by email, invited them to take advantage of that $8,000 opportunity, which they did. More likely, that's going to be after a little bit of time of understanding that Matthew's a cool guy and he's got good advice and this works. This actually works. This is, I feel better about this, right? It's so inner work that you're helping people with, way more than the tactics, right? So that, I think, is the point of it is that, let's say that group of 1,000 people generated $10,000. Let's just talk, about it. That the metric, the number is that you've generated $10 per opt-in over 100 weeks, right? So if it costs $1 at the top level of it, that you've generated, $10 for something that you bought for $1. That's the value there. And that's a really interesting thing. I don't know whether you're at the stage, what level of availability of the market are you getting? Like, have you dialed everything up to 11, or are you going on, this is what we can afford to spend right now? If you had unlimited money, how much
Mhm.
more could you get? Or are you already spending the most that you could possibly?
No, we're not even close to
Right.
spending that. I look at the numbers and I'm constantly like, okay, how can we move into new areas
Yeah.
and do it in a way that makes sense
Yeah.
without, blowing everything up or something. Fortunately, we have a lot of capital to kind of test a whole bunch of different things. And so we're definitely not at total, like right now we're jumping onto the Google Display Network, testing different ads and stuff on TikTok and Twitter.
Yeah.
But we need to figure out, like, I think from what I've seen, every platform's kind of different. And so we have to figure out how to make it work on those platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just look at the, what you've got in the, existing platforms that you're on. If it's true that there's upside potential there and you extend your runway, if you had that confidence that that you're going to put $1,000 into this unit, I'm trying like financial, unitize these things to create it like a financial instrument out of it so that you get a sense of confidence. If you ever want to raise capital like that, it's such you've got a stable, long time, sustainable, with a track record business. If you're showing people this is our day on day, our trailing rev pup on 100 weeks that's a valuable confidence building number, right? That you have the sense that you'd be able to get a pretty tremendous return on capital,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I like that. And I like what you're talking about in terms of, getting kind of down to the details of the numbers, because I'm not being that specific with it. And I think that if I did do that, it would be a lot easier, like you said, and I'd have a lot more confidence in being like, okay, this is what we can do. This is how we can do it.
And that's the thing. I think I want to make the distinction that everything you were talking about, you look at the big numbers, but what I'm suggesting is I agree with you that you can go granular, even, narrower, looking deeper into those existing numbers. But what I'm talking about, these two things are going up, they're going out, looking at a even bigger picture. It's not getting more granular. It's getting bigger on a meta level, looking that you've got, or on a macro level, sorry, that you've got what the return on the 1,000 person units is. And it's, I mean, it certainly, gives you a great opportunity. Now within that, there's still, we haven't talked about any of the opportunities to, convert more of what you're getting. What's the journey for somebody? So if I'm a young lady, I'm watching the video, I decide what have I opted in for? If you got a book or a quiz or
there's a few different ones, but it kind of depends. Like what we're doing is we're going, okay, what are different, like as you say, what's the cheese? What are the different types of cheese that we can give them? And so there's a few different ones. Our biggest one is our texting one. It's called Irresistible, or it's 40 flirty text messages that men love. Good. And it's like, it's just, a bunch of text messages instant that women payoff. Will send to guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Instant payoff type of a thing. Yeah, for sure.
How could they not want that? No wonder. So good for you. So, that, congratulations. That's great. Do you get their cell or mobile at the same time that they opt in?
I don't get their mobile.
Okay. So you don't text to them. It would be an interesting send flirty texts to them. I mean, why not demonstrate? Like, imagine if you had like a text panel, a text hotline, where as a service that you could run their texts by a coach before they send it live, kind of thing. That could be a really interesting thing. Like that could be a bonus product that you could train.
I think that could be an amazing offer, right?
I do too. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I just get so excited because I see nothing but opportunity for you. So when they opt in, then what's the journey for me? So I get this. I want these texts, and then what's the first thing that happens? Do I see a video of you now? Say, hey, your thing's on the way. Let me tell you a little bit about what we've got for you, and make a special offer that you could. Is that the kind of thing you're trying to get the?
Yeah, I'm kind of moving away from video sales letters though,
Okay.
because I found that women in our industry tend to hate them.
Okay.
And so we're using text-based sales letters
Okay.
now,
Uh huh.
which we found women like a lot more.
Yeah. So
And
scroll and read. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't perform quite as well as a VSL, but it performs great.
Mm.
We're running it on cold traffic. And yeah, they go to a page that basically says, hey, your text messages will be to you in, the next 10 to 15 minutes. Please read this. And then it's got a headline, and it's basically a thing to buy my texting program, my low ticket texting program. And then they get a series of email follow-ups on not only texting, but all the kind of different main areas that women come to us for help with.
And so do you have like a gauntlet series? Like they go through a 10-day sequence or 7-day, or how long is your gauntlet series?
Yeah, it's 10 days.
Okay.
And they basically get an article each day that also has an offer attached to it from one of our best-selling offers that we have. So we've got 10 different offers,
okay,
10 days, 10 emails,
yep,
10 articles,
yeah,
and they go through that.
Okay.
Series.
And what at the end of it, how many will buy? Do you track? How do you track that, or what's the?
I don't track that.
It's just more than what we spent, right?
That's what I look at. Because if we can make more money, or even break even on those numbers, then on the back end we'll end up making it up by multiples.
Yes.
And so that's really what I focus on.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so after the 10 days, then how often am I hearing from you?
You get an email from me every day.
Every day.
And yeah, sometimes twice a day, but usually once a day. And it's just a series of different emails, again, different topics, mostly with an offer attached to it. We also do some where it's just like emotional, like an emotional topic where I send them like, hey, I realized that you gave your heart to the wrong man, and, it was really horrible. And let me tell you why you're worth more than that, and why you can, there's a bright future ahead of you, type of a thing.
Yeah.
And so, but most of them are article with some offer attached to it.
And then do you do a podcast, or do you do any other like multimedia type of conversion?
Yeah, I do videos, podcasts, what other blogs. We've got a whole bunch of different stuff that we do.
Perfect. This is great. I mean, you're at the whole, you got so much potential there. How big is the list overall?
We've got 250,000 women.
I love it.
On the list.
That's so great. Congratulations, man. That's exciting to see. So what do you see then as when thinking about getting together today? What was on your mind in terms of where do you see the opportunity, or what's?
Well, one of the challenges that we've been running into is around who we want our clients to be, right? Because there's kind of this one side where I'm like, we're servicing so many women because it's such a massive market. Women interested in committed relationships, and that's just huge. It's massive. And what we've been doing is we're looking at things and we're going, okay, well, we want to coach people, right? Because we want a higher ticket thing, and we are coaching, and we're getting the offer dialed in for the coaching really well right now. And we're going, okay, well, who would be our ideal client? Who would be the most successful? And who do we enjoy working with? And so we're just kind of dialing that in and going, okay, how does this look? How do we get in front of more women who are basically successful women, ideally growth-oriented women? A lot of times with both of those two things, they're women that are kind of in their masculine, right? And they're, like working really hard, doing a lot of stuff, but they can afford our higher ticket stuff. And they're great to work with because if you're successful in other areas of your life, it's very easy to bring that success over to relationships where you have a lot of good mindsets and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of like looking at like, how do we focus more on those women? How do I reach out to those women and kind of pull them out of, I almost feel like I'm advertising to the women that have been advertised to who are on our list already and go, okay, how do we like pluck them out of our communities and go, like get on the phone with us, right? Because we're going to help you one-on-one. So do you have any thoughts or ideas on how we could kind of dial that in or look at that from a different way?
Well, I think, do you have an overriding context for what this story is, or the context of what you're creating? I'll give you an example. So one of the things, so I've got a whole community of real estate agents that I've created this concept, the context of what I call the listing agent lifestyle. And the listing agent lifestyle includes, there's 8 elements of it, 5 of which are the core business elements of getting listings, multiplying your listings, getting referrals, finding buyers, converting leads. Those are the 5 kind of core business elements. And then the lifestyle elements of daily joy, abundant time, and financial peace. So if you're firing on all cylinders kind of thing, you've got systems and processes and things in place to maximize all of those elements. That's the grand context. I have a book called The Listing Agent Lifestyle, which is kind of like the hymn book. So everybody's singing from the same hymn book, right? And so everybody knows what these elements are. We have proprietary metrics for each of them so you can see where you stand, how you're doing in each of those things, right? And so we have a scorecard that that we've created so that people can go and calculate their listing agent score. And it was the same thing on the entrepreneur side. I've got the overriding context of the 8 profit activators. It's the same kind of thing, right? The before unit, the during unit, the after unit. You've got to go through all of the 8 elements or the 8 profit activators that are: select a single target market, compel your best prospects to raise their hand, educate and motivate them, make irresistible offers, provide a dream come true experience, provide after-sale service, nurture lifetime relationships, and orchestrate referrals. That's the scaffolding that is the perimeter of everything that we're doing. Everything in your business fits under one of those contexts. And so I imagine if you take whether it's the modern woman or what would be the words, like listing agent lifestyle is something that a real estate agent, that's what they want. They want to be a listing agent and they want to have a great lifestyle, right? And 8 profit activators, that sounds like, oh, I'm very interested in that because each of these, there's 8 ways I'm going to activate profits in my business, right? So what I would be thinking and looking to create, what are the 8 elements of the big picture context that you're able to create with these women? I don't know whether the modern woman, that's not the thing, but I'm just giving those words out there as like what that's kind of.
Yeah. We have different so what you're talking about is kind of taking them and having them have kind of in just out of curiosity, is 8 like a magic number?
There's something like that's the 7 plus or minus 2 is the number of things that we can remember, right? So it's easy to, that's why phone numbers are 7, zip codes are 5. It's easy to remember those kind of things, right? So 8 is a good number in that it's you can pretty much break something down into the 8 contextual components of it, kind of thing. And so you
Mhm.
look at what would some of those be. This way you're giving people the map of the territory. It's like, this is what everything is about, where they come in through the door of 40 flirty texts. That's coming in through a tactical thing of focused on getting engaged, kind of thing. But that's one piece of, now that they're in the door, it's like they're in the door as a Disney World, but they can go to the Magic Kingdom, they could go to Epcot, they can go to Tomorrowland, they can go, so you think about, they want to make their way through all of the different things. So having a
Yeah.
sense of that map, that roadmap, that sense of accomplishment, and having 8 elements like that gives you an opportunity to create a scorecard, especially when you're trying to. One of the best things that I learned from Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach is this method of quantifying qualitative things with a scorecard, with an assessment scorecard, where you essentially, if we have your profit activator score.com is the way you can go through the 8 profit activators, but you rate yourself on a number from 1 to 12 on each of the profit activators with 2 scores. So the first score is where you are right now, and the second score is where you want to be. And the way that you find what your score is, we've created 4 columns basically that are the progression of, I'm failing at this one, or I'm frustrated with this one, or I'm winning with this one. In a traditional sense, people would think I'm winning on this, but then transforming is the level that, so they're all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you give, people can score themselves in a little bit of, I'm barely this, or I'm almost this next one, or I'm solidly in this. And each of those boxes, you're basically creating 32 statements that are the statement that you would identify with if you are failing at element number 1. If you're frustrated about element 1, is like, you recognize it's important and you're trying to do stuff, but it's just not working. So what would be
Mhm.
evidence that's happening for you? I'm texting guys, but they ghost me, or they don't text me back. Or I can text guys and get engaged, what will be winning when it comes to texting with them. And then, but what would be transforming is that they're texting me and I've got these, this whole thing.
Mhm.
When you look at that, you've got the chance to dial all these elements up to 11, and win on all of those things. So it's kind of like you're creating almost like the Girl Scout handbook of, that there's achievements that you can get to be a perfect 12 on all of these elements. So you get achievement badges, like I got my he texted me back badge. That, it's kind of like all these things, right? If you really look at it and map out the territory and map out the things, I think if you were to overlay, you look at your current, how many different SKUs do you have? How many different products or offerings?
Well, our front end stuff, so the kind of like niche down products, we have 14 kind
Mm-hmm.
of different areas that they can buy something in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kissing, texting, like verbal conversation and like dirty talk, right? Or in the bedroom kind of
Yes.
stuff,
Uh-huh.
right? And yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different kind of areas like
Yeah.
that. So we can definitely take a look at all that.
Right. I think that's amazing. So there's so a lot of that is in those categories. If you were to design the playbook for the, do you have a name for what you call it or what you're overriding?
Well, so we have
Where do the
kind of
word?
like identities.
Uh-huh.
So like some of the identities are like queen or high value woman
Oh yeah.
or goddess or,
Yes.
things like that,
Ah,
we kind of use that to talk about women that are valued by men, women who guys pursue and want something real with. So that's kind of what we have around that.
mm,
We don't really have like a name for, all the kind of different elements or
yet. You don't have a name for all of it yet. And there's a
right.
big, I think that's a good opportunity there. And do you do any podcast advertising or like on other podcasts? This seems like that would fit right up there with like Call Her Daddy or, Pearly Things or,
I don't do any podcast advertising at
okay.
all yet.
It's interesting because there's probably, you talk about high value women and there's a lot of those ones who are gathering that audience, could be an interesting, that could be an interesting thing.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like to jump into there. One of my challenges with podcast advertising is just in the metrics
Yeah.
of it. And so what I probably need to do is just get like a domain that's set up. So, just for that kind of a
Yeah.
thing. That way it'd be a lot easier to just measure the metrics around
Yeah.
people that are coming from there and how much money we're making and what the opt-ins and stuff are.
I love it. So what other things were on your thought process here?
I mean, that was really the biggest one. That's kind of the biggest challenge that we're having. And I think you gave me a really great kind of thing to look at and dive into and organize and figure out there. So I think if I took that and just ran with it, could completely transform my business. Because I mean, if we had something like that, like the profit activators there, I can totally see how you go from, here's the book, here's, what you're
So
learning.
there could be attraction activators, 8 attraction activators.
Exactly.
That's, I like that a
Exactly.
lot, Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Attraction activators. I love it.
I mean, and that's kind of thing because you could go all the way from appearance to, style, clothing to, I mean, there's lots of all the things that if you're going to package up to make yourself the most attractive, the magnetically attractive woman. I mean, so now there's something like you put the cover of the box on the puzzle, right? That's what we're looking for. This is what would be the things. What's the manifesto of the magnetically attractive woman,
Yeah, absolutely.
Do
Love
you,
it.
do you have higher priced things than is there something higher than 8,000?
No, that's the highest right
Yeah.
now that we have. I've looked at other things. I know that certain people are selling, $20,000 stuff in our industry.
Yeah.
I know that there's one person that's doing $100,000 offer, but we're figuring out one thing at a time here.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, if we can do this, then we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
And if they're doing that, then I can definitely do that.
Right.
And so we just kind of have to work our way over there.
Yeah. I love it. Well, and they're not going anywhere. I mean, do people stay? Do you get engagement? What kind of open rates do you get on your emails?
Yeah, we get like somewhere around like 25 to 30%
That's
open
great.
rate.
Very good. That's healthy, right? And do you ever? I just did this. It's an interesting thing. We're doing a beach condo project in Florida here, and we've been doing it about 18 months. And I was on a call with our lender partner in this, and we were looking about taking all of the opt-ins from November and December of 2021, so a year ago, and just seeing how many of them are engaged. Like on these emails, we get 45 to 48% open rates every week we send one weekly update with all the new beach condos in this market. And So I took all the opt-ins from a year ago, and then flagged them in our CRM, and then took all the people who opened last week's email and flagged them, and then did a merge to find that we had over 50% of the people who opted in a year ago opened last week's email. So they're engaged in that level like a year later. It's
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing, right? Like I think that this big asset that you have, the biggest asset you have is the 250,000, the people, it's this middling group that once they're in and they've gone through the gauntlet series, there's probably some little things that you can do to improve those conversions. But the big opportunity is in the ongoing things. Do you use a super signature in your email every day that you send out?
No, right now we're doing one call to action, and that's it in all of our stuff. I was looking at your super signature though, and I like the idea of it because it's like, okay, when you're ready, like jump on the call with us.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about taking this to the next level.
It's like a ride along on every email, like that. So you've got that opportunity there for them every time, because there's really only, this is what I've discovered in the big, you know, Zen idea of it all, is there's only two time frames. It's either now or not now. And I want for it to be now every day if you've got that opportunity. So if every email that you send, and even after the single offer that you're making, down at the bottom, plus whenever you're ready, here's 4 ways we can help you, which are the 4 like next steps that somebody might take. There's some magic in that, because then it's almost like everybody gets. I always use the bus analogy. If they're riding around in the bus and that they've got the wire they can pull when they're ready, you give them that opportunity every day. I think it would be fun to experiment with something like that, and what the return on super signature would be. Do you know Taki Moore? He said,
No.
he's a coach, he coaches, but he joked about the super signature because they send out 3 emails a week. It's like finding $5,000 in your pocket 3 times a week. Because it's just every time we send out the super signature, some people do something. There's always an opportunity for it to be now. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful.
Well,
I will definitely test that out, and we'll try that out and next week, and just see what happens from it, and see who we end up getting from it.
I think that would be
That's
awesome.
great.
That's great. Well, I enjoyed it. It's nice to put a face to the voice and reconnect.
Yeah, for sure,
I had a
man. I
lot of fun.
appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. And thank you for having me on, and thank you for imparting some wisdom on me and helping me with our systems, because this could make a huge difference in what we're doing.
I love it. Well, let me know when it does. Awesome.
I
Thanks,
will.
Matthew. Have a great day.